Every few years, a headline spreads across the internet claiming the same extraordinary thing. Scientists have discovered the DNA of giants, ancient skeletons, hidden laboratories, forbidden genetic research, evidence so shocking that it supposedly threatens everything we know about human history. The claims spread rapidly. Millions watch the videos, millions more share them. Almost all of them trace the story back to one mysterious word: Nephilim. According to the Bible, the Nephilim lived before the Great Flood. According to the Book of Enoch, they were the offspring of the Watchers and human women. And according to countless modern theories, their bloodline never disappeared. Some claim fragments of their DNA still survive in certain families today. Others argue scientists secretly know the truth but refuse to reveal it. It's one of the most persistent mysteries surrounding the ancient world. But where did these claims actually come from? And what happens when we compare them with archaeology, genetics, and the oldest surviving texts, where the Nephilim first appear? Surprisingly, the Bible says very little about the Nephilim. The word appears only a handful of times. The best-known passage is found in Genesis chapter 6. Just before the story of Noah, Genesis describes the sons of God taking wives from among human women. Then it adds one remarkable sentence: the Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward. That's almost everything Genesis tells us. No explanation of their biology, no detailed history, no description of their civilization, only enough information to raise questions that have lasted for thousands of years. Centuries later, another ancient book attempted to answer them. The Book of Enoch expands the story. The Book of Enoch, written several centuries before the time of Jesus, develops the Genesis passage into a much larger narrative. According to Enoch, a group of heavenly beings called the Watchers descended to earth. They married human women. Their children became the Nephilim. The text describes them as extraordinarily powerful beings whose presence contributed to the corruption of the ancient world before the flood. Whether one interprets the account literally or symbolically, Enoch focuses on morality rather than genetics. The problem isn't unusual DNA. The problem is that the natural order has been broken. Violence spreads. Humanity loses its way. Judgment follows. That's the central message of the text. Modern discussions often shift the emphasis somewhere entirely different. The DNA theory didn't come from ancient texts. One of the biggest misconceptions surrounding the Nephilim is that ancient writings discuss genetics. They don't. The concept of DNA wasn't discovered until the 20th century. Neither Genesis nor the Book of Enoch describes chromosomes, inherited genes, or biological sequences. So where did the DNA theory originate? Most historians trace it to modern attempts to reinterpret ancient religious stories through the language of contemporary science. As genetics became better understood, some writers began suggesting that the Nephilim represented a hybrid species. Others proposed that traces of their biology survived into later human populations. These ideas gained enormous popularity through documentaries, books, and internet discussions, but they represent modern speculation, not ancient teaching. The original texts speak the language of theology. Modern theories often replace that language with biology. The giant skeleton photographs. If you've ever searched for the Nephilim online, you've probably seen them. Photographs of archaeologists standing beside enormous human skeletons. Some appear 20 feet long, others stretch even further. The images look convincing. That's why they've been shared millions of times, but nearly all of them have something in common. They're fake. Many originated from digital art competitions. Others were manipulated using image editing software. Some were created long before modern artificial intelligence. Professional archaeologists have repeatedly confirmed that no verified excavation has uncovered skeletons matching the gigantic proportions shown in these viral images. That doesn't mean unusually tall people never existed. They certainly did. But there's an enormous difference between an exceptionally tall human and the gigantic beings described in later legend, what genetics actually reveals. Modern genetics has transformed our understanding of human history. By studying ancient DNA preserved in bones and teeth, scientists can now trace migrations stretching back tens of thousands of years. They've discovered that modern humans interbred with Neanderthals. They've identified another ancient human group known as the Denisovans. These discoveries were once considered impossible. yet none of them point toward a mysterious Nephilim population. Instead, they reveal a far more complex story of human evolution involving multiple human relatives sharing the Earth at different times. Ironically, the genuine discoveries made through genetics are already astonishing. They demonstrate that humanity's family tree is far richer than anyone imagined only a few decades ago. No hidden giant DNA is required to make the story extraordinary. Why the theory refuses to disappear? If the evidence doesn't support the Nephilim DNA theory, why does it remain so popular? Part of the answer lies in the power of mystery. People naturally search for explanations that connect ancient texts with modern science. The idea that a forgotten bloodline survived into the present is compelling because it turns mythology into an ongoing story. It suggests history isn't finished, that hidden chapters still exist. Popular culture strengthens that fascination. Novels, films, television documentaries, online creators. Each generation adds new layers to the legend. Eventually, many viewers begin assuming the modern version must come directly from the ancient sources. Often, it doesn't. The mystery grows because the story keeps evolving. What scientists actually say, when geneticists study ancient human remains, they follow evidence. DNA sequences can reveal ancestry, migration patterns, relationships between ancient populations, even inherited diseases. What DNA cannot do is confirm the existence of supernatural beings described in religious literature. To date, no peer-reviewed genetic study has identified a separate human lineage that matches the biblical description of the Nephilim. Instead, researchers have uncovered something equally remarkable. Modern humans share DNA with other ancient human relatives, including Neanderthals and Denisovans. These discoveries transformed our understanding of prehistory because they were supported by physical evidence, genetic sequencing, and independent verification. Science welcomes extraordinary discoveries, but only when the evidence is equally extraordinary. That's why the Nephilim DNA claim remains outside mainstream genetics, not because scientists refuse to discuss it, because no verifiable evidence has demonstrated it. Did the Nephilim survive the flood? One of the oldest questions surrounding the Nephilim comes directly from Genesis. The text says they existed in those days and also afterward. Those three words have inspired countless interpretations. Some readers believe a second appearance of the Nephilim occurred after the flood. Others argue the phrase simply refers to later groups remembered as mighty warriors. The Book of Enoch presents a different perspective. Within its narrative, the flood brings the age of the Watchers and the Nephilim to an end. Later, Jewish and Christian traditions offered additional interpretations, but none reached universal agreement. The Bible itself never explains exactly how the phrase, and also afterward, should be understood. That silence has allowed the mystery to survive for thousands of years. Why the internet loves the Nephilim. Few biblical subjects spread across the internet as quickly as the Nephilim. The formula is almost irresistible. Take an ancient mystery, add giant skeletons, mix in secret government research, suggest hidden DNA. The result is a story that feels both ancient and modern. Social media rewards dramatic claims far more than careful historical analysis. A headline saying, "Scientists secretly found giant DNA," travels much faster than one explaining ancient Hebrew literature. The problem is that repetition can make speculation sound like established fact. Over time, people forget where the story began. The original biblical passages become buried beneath layers of modern interpretation. Separating those layers is one of the most important tasks for anyone studying ancient history. What the Nephilim may really represent. Many biblical scholars believe the Nephilim were never intended to answer biological questions. Their role in Genesis is theological. They appear immediately before the flood narrative. The surrounding chapters describe a world consumed by violence, corruption, and moral collapse. Whether the Nephilim are understood as literal giants, powerful rulers, symbolic figures, or something else entirely, their purpose within the story remains remarkably consistent. They represent a world where human ambition has crossed dangerous boundaries, power has become unchecked, justice has disappeared. The flood doesn't arrive because of unusual genetics. It arrives because creation itself has fallen into disorder. Understanding that literary purpose changes how the entire passage is read. The emphasis shifts away from hidden DNA and back toward the moral message of the text. Why the real story is still extraordinary. Ironically, modern science has uncovered discoveries that are every bit as fascinating as the legends. Ancient DNA has shown that human history is far more interconnected than previously imagined. Previously unknown human relatives have been identified. Migration routes once thought impossible have been confirmed. Archaeology continues uncovering cities older than anyone expected. Each year, new discoveries reshape humanity's understanding of its own origins. Reality has turned out to be more surprising than many early scientists ever imagined. That curiosity, the willingness to follow evidence wherever it leads, is what continues driving both archaeology and genetics forward. Is there really a Nephilim DNA claim that scientists refuse to discuss? The historical record suggests a different picture. The Nephilim belong to ancient religious texts, such as Genesis and the Book of Enoch, where they serve a theological role within the story of humanity before the flood. The idea that their DNA survives today is a modern interpretation rather than a claim found in those ancient writings. Current genetic research has revealed extraordinary truths about human evolution, including our relationship with Neanderthals and Denisovans. But it has not uncovered evidence for a hidden Nephilim bloodline. That doesn't make the ancient mystery any less compelling. If anything, it reminds us why these stories have endured for thousands of years, not because they answer every question, but because they continue inviting each generation to ask new ones. Perhaps the greatest mystery isn't hidden inside our DNA at all. Perhaps it's hidden in humanity's endless desire to connect ancient stories with the discoveries of the modern world.